Exceptional Randos show is produced live in Sunroom Studios' Base Capsule and in partnership with KLST 103.5, RadioCallisti.org. Remember to catch our Exceptional Randos live stream on YouTube every Sunday between 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a story, idea, or question that you would like to share, we want to hear from you. Thanks for listening.
Well, that was random. Exceptional Radio.
Good afternoon. It is September. Holy crap, it's September. We're 9 months into the year. 9 months into the year, and summer finally feels like it's taking a break, I guess. But it comes with this like kind of a little, there's a cost here. All this heat, it's impacted our local water supply, and we've got this. Man, this is like a $25 word, methyl isoborneol. It's an organic compound, and it's not harmful, but apparently it tastes like algae. It creates a murky flavor in the water. Bloomington is lucky because it has its own lake, essentially. And at one point, Indianapolis was trying to divert water from Bloomington up to Indianapolis because one of their water supplies had been overrun by boat activity, and it tasted like metallic dirt or bloody ass, I guess. But so it's finally happening here in our water supply. And in the last 2 weeks, the volume of this compound has just skyrocketed. Like, it went from 20 parts per trillion 2 weeks ago to just under 300 trillion parts. The parts per trillion. This is insane.
Yeah. I haven't drank tap water in a long time from Bloomington. It's been going through the filter for a few years at least. And then I know we've had boil orders a few times, but
yeah, but this is like a lake level. This is a full body of water level problem.
It's real bad now. I don't know what to say about America, man.
They gotta have their.
You can't shoot the bacteria in the water, so we got a problem. The guns aren't working on this. Problem? Can we shoot it? No, then we're fucked.
And it's in water, so you can't use cleansing fire. So, guns and fire are out of the question. We can't add more chemicals to the water because then the water becomes dangerous to us. This is what happens when people don't wash their boat, and they just like they don't drain the bilge until they get to the next body of water.
Yeah.
Never spray off their trailer. Just taking nasty shit from lake to lake. This
is the point where American hygiene and lack of concern for pollution and waste is starting to eat its own tail again. There are all these things. Sorry, go ahead.
This is fundamental to like colonialism. Oh, I'm just gonna take my shit and dump it here. And fuck your lake. Our lake sucks, so your lake should suck too. Well, fuck.
Yeah. I'm not sure that enough people are made aware of alternative systems of economics, or the notion that the current system of industry isn't the only way it ever existed. And I think this is also why Americans are kept so far away from Chinese history, as if Chinese history is like from the devil or something. Because then it's like China didn't get 1 billion people overnight. And I think Americans demonized the single child policy when they had it, and now that China's population is like where it's at, Americans demonize them for having too many kids. So it's like, on the one hand, that single child policy didn't come out of nowhere, and it was an efficient industry and economic ecosystem that allowed the population to like balloon out of control. And then when the government is the one trying to re-exert control, from a Western perspective, that's very easily distorted into something that's like nefarious or even unethical. Whereas now you have people like Elon Musk saying the same type of shit that the Chinese government was saying, where like but it's on in the other direction. So if it's like a rich white man doing it, then it's okay. But
wait, doesn't he have like 6 or 8 kids or something dumb? I mean, doesn't he have a full fucking like hockey team? Like,
yeah, because he's of the notion that we have an underpopulation problem, which is clearly replacement theory, where he's only talking about white people in America, because that's the only real population that's having trouble repopulating. And they're the only ones that are.
We're set to hit like 8 billion people here within the next few years.
Yeah, exactly. We're not having any problems as a species. So this is all, yet another reason not to take Elon Musk seriously.
8 billion. That's so many people.
Yeah.
There's not a labor shortage. There's like a distribution at the highest level problem.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We make enough food for 10 billion people. That's why we are hitting 8, but so much of it gets thrown away and made inaccessible for the sake of someone profiting. That is why we have poor poverty and starving people while we have an excess amount of food. It's really an allocation and ownership problem. And this is like, to me, when you have basic needs like housing and food that are subject to the there's no such thing as a free market, but subject to what is portrayed as a free market, so then these people have no protection from the market or from the government, then they're allowed to be preyed on from both sides. So that's where, to me, it's like an implicit collusion between the market and governments to continue to not protect the most vulnerable populations, so that they can use them as chattel while also claiming that they're doing their duty. Like fucking goddamn Jackson, Mississippi, where they've basically taken the money that was meant for the water systems and funneled it to a bunch of rich people, and in some cases just rejected it flat out. This fucking racist ass governor rejected the money, saying he doesn't want to participate in any socialist experiments, and now the fucking infrastructure is falling apart. Mind you, you have an 80% black population with like all white representation. This is where gerrymandering comes in, and you get these fucking out of touch liberals. Why don't they just move? Why don't they just leave behind everything? Not realizing that their families have been stuck there because they keep getting stolen from through systematic racism. It's like, whether it's from the actual state coming in and using eminent domain to steal their property and build fucking highways over it, or just racist white people running them out in the form of lynching. So, like, lynching still happens in fucking Mississippi. So that shit still happens. It never stopped happening.
It's relatively easy for people who have resources to pack up and move away, but for people who don't have, I wonder what Bruce is barking at. For people who don't have access to resources, that's a very daunting challenge, and sometimes resources that one has in an area to reacquire the same quality or depth of those resources elsewhere, that could take years. One might have to invest their time into the community and become a known entity so that people trust them. They might have to make new friends. They might have to pay more to get access to certain types of services because they don't know anyone. These are huge barriers, and these aren't the things that can just be overcome by, oh, I can't drink the water, I'm going to up and move. That's such a like a fantasy answer. Like, well,
Yeah,
we're just going to up
totally.
and leave.
Yep. That's and it's
It
that
takes I mean
is the response.
it takes time just to like disentangle oneself from like all the services that one has associated with an address.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's a real non-answer answer that they feel very smug giving to people stuck in these types of situations, as if it's like a real option for them to just like up and move. And it's like even in Bloomington, there was like a point where we were looking at like, oh, there was a point where we thought our neighbors were like really just antagonizing us for no reason. So we're like, let's fucking move. And we started looking for properties, and it's like between nothing being for rent and then everything for rent being way overpriced, it was like, well, we can't even really fucking move here if we're trying to move, because it wasn't really viable.
Yeah.
We could have done it, but we would have been throwing so much money away and not getting what we would have been worth, the things worth what we would have been paying for. That was like, well, we can't really move. It's not like the market is so fucked from people hoarding properties that the renters are stuck. And then the people who own all these properties are stuck too, because nobody can afford what they need to pay to offload them.
Yeah,
So
casually, the other day, I was looking at the housing market on Zillow locally, and there is nothing. Like, everything's just extremely expensive now. Like, when I was looking for a house, I got a really good deal on my property, and at the time, there were several properties that were, within my budget. And now, and even within like the same search radius, there's nothing like close to what I acquired, almost a decade ago. The housing market in this town is so, it just seems everything seems inflated, but it's also,
oh, it is.
it's just insane. And then, expand the search radius to other places, like not Bloomington. And I find myself looking at this place in, I think, Gladstone, Michigan. It's on like the north shore of Lake Michigan in this tiny little bay. And I find this I found a pizza parlor with bar. And it had a house on the second floor in a big old yard with a garage in the back. They wanted $95,000 for it. And this thing was like a restaurant on the inside. It had really nice wooden floors. The walls were all very clean. It had a pool table, commercial kitchen, large utility area. It's a restaurant. It had all sorts of features that are like, and it was a foreclosure too. So obviously a restaurant won't work in a small community like that, but that structure itself was still good, and it was beautiful on the inside. Well, within reason for a $95,000 dwelling. It was like within shouting distance of the lake, like 2,000 feet away from Lake Michigan. It seems like that should be worth more, but it's not, because the town's economy is not thriving. At some point, I think at some point, like, the external interest makes the decision whether or not they're gonna pump money into a community and turn it into a small city.
And regulations can prevent or enable it too. And that's like when they changed the regulation that prevented buildings from being taller than the Capitol building here, that completely changed the way apartment buildings were being built. And the landscape of Bloomington has already started to change. But the roads aren't fit to support what the actual infrastructure is trying to build. So it's like almost unnavigable now during the populated times of the year, except on campus where everything's catered towards walking and you can't actually really use your car on campus. So it's like
You have to park.
This place is
somewhere else
not-
and bus in.
I mean, that's what they're trying to make it. That's what they're trying to make it for. But then when you realize what's happening, then it's like all of the local, like rural areas coming into town and doing all the service jobs and then leaving town at the end of the day. And all that traffic is unnecessary because the service shouldn't all be here. Everything being concentrated here is what's causing the poor infrastructure not to be able to sustain the traffic. So they could have just, instead of trying to concentrate everything, spread it out more. And yeah, I don't know. I keep seeing Americans and people make the same mistakes over and over where I'm like, I know I can tell people are getting dumber by the like generation. And it's not that I don't think kids are dumb, but I think in light of adults being so dumb, they're like jaded by the time they reach adulthood. And they're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? My grandma and grandpa and mother and father have been basically dawdling around, not paying attention to anything, hating math, hating intellect. What is the kid supposed to do in light of multiple generations of idiocy? And then they just kind of give up. So I see what's happening between the kids. They're like the most educated, have most access to information ever, but also in the face of family members who hate them for being educated and then also withhold capital and access from them. So then it makes it seem like being educated was a bad choice. And then it perpetuates this notion that we should just keep burning fossil fuels because that's how you make money. Go work on an oil rig. You know, I don't know if you saw that video of those two fucking idiots working on an oil rig with their shirts off. And then some right-wing nut job was like, what happened to manly jobs? This is where people used to do, most people wouldn't be able to do what these guys do. And it's like, well, first off, they're breaking like 1,000 regulations doing exactly like this video. I hope they got fired for it because it's clear that they weren't following any fucking regulations.
Were they wearing their protective equipment?
No.
Okay.
They had like a helmet and maybe goggles, but no other protective equipment.
No respirators,
Dude wasn't wearing
no
any
gloves.
fucking gloves. Dude was not fucking wearing gloves, covered in goddamn mud. And then people from like Sweden were like, yeah, actually, women can do that job because we have like a lot of automation and we have regulations so that you don't need to be a fucking brutish idiot to do it. And a woman can do that. It doesn't, you don't have to be some fucking jacked up idiot on a bunch of steroids to do this job, because guess what? It's more efficient this way. So the whole notion of like working like a fucking Neanderthal that doesn't know what they're doing, so they just like brute force their way through things. That's macho, man. Yeah, that's how men do it. No, that's how fucking idiots do it. Like, you don't have to be a fucking idiot to be a man. And I think like the Homer Simpsons and like Peter Griffins have really reinforced this notion that like men are fucking aloof idiots But who cares? Because they make the money. They just go to work and push a bunch of fucking buttons. They don't know what they're doing. They just go there and do some fucking work. And then they come home. They lied to get that job. That's how capitalism works. You lie to fucking get the job. And then you do it. Now you're a fucking professional. So there's this notion of like faking it till you make it as like an actual way to make it. But all those people are making our economy worse and making our infrastructure worse, and everybody else is picking up the slack. And in the cases where they can't pick up the slack, shit's fucking falling apart and failing. So that shit can only last for so long, where you have Homer Simpson's running fucking nuclear factories. No, that's why it was supposed to be funny. That's why it was supposed to be funny, guys. Like, we weren't supposed to actually have fucking idiots in positions of like importance. That's not the way things are supposed to work. So I think like when Mike Judge makes these satires, or Matt Groening makes these satires, and people don't understand that they're satire, and then the network keeps pushing it, and they're like, well, guess what? We're gonna fucking keep making these whether you like it or not. And then Mike Judge is like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to keep making them myself. And they get stuck in these golden handcuffs, because if they don't keep making it, the network's just going to run with it and turn it into a pro-capitalist hollow piece of propaganda. Whereas at least if, like, I haven't watched The Simpsons in like 20 years. I'm amazed that it's still, I'm assuming it's still on.
Oh, yeah.
Did they ever? Yeah, because I never heard it. Like it got canceled.
Oh, that would have been like
shit's
a cultural
insane.
event if it got canceled.
Yeah, exactly. Which is where I'm like, and that is South Park too. Who the fuck is still watching South Park? Who the fuck is really? If you're not like at a hotel because you're, I can get that. That's the last time I actually saw South Park. Is because I was on a business trip, stuck in a hotel, didn't have control over it. Oh shit, South Park still exists? What's real? Oh, it's the same formula. Okay, got it. Checked in, checked out. Never watched it again. Who's still watching fucking South Park? Like, really? There's no way that kids watch South Park. There's no goddamn way that the new generation of youth is watching these, like, right-wing, pretend to be left-wing, fucking really tired-ass cartoons that should have, like, evolved by now. Nobody's watching. Like, no kids are watching. There's no way kids are watching that shit.
Every so often I see a South Park thing pop up on F Movies, and I put it on casually because I'm curious, what the hell are they even talking about now? And from what I've gleaned, South Park is basically trying to be pro-weed. We don't care about anything else. We're a one-topic thing. And there was this brief moment where they got into streaming wars, where it was all about people consuming piss, because I guess they're not on any like large platform. Their content is not being streamed on any large platform. But it seems to be mostly about weed and weed economy. That's it. They are a one-trick pony at this point. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe at this point they've changed. They've changed directions, but that's the message that I've gotten out of the last 4, 5, 6, 10 episodes. It's very, very much about pro marijuana legalization and altering the perception of the culture that consumes marijuana. And I think it does a pretty terrible job at that. Because they show Randy Marsh. He becomes the primary character in this whole weed movement because he has a farm. And he basically is insane because of it. You know, at one point he was a geologist, a respected scientist. And you can't see my air quotes, but respected scientist. And he traded it all in to have a pot farm.
Oof.
It's just. I never could have predicted that's where South Park would have landed 20, 5 years later or whatever. How many 23 years later? Never in my
It's like
life.
Family Guy is still going too. What the fuck? Who's still watching Family Guy?
What was Family Guy ever about? Was it just like a riff on Simpsons?
Kind of. I mean, it was like a riff on Simpsons, but trying to think.
Because they're isolated moments
But
taken out of context.
a little more adult, slightly more adult, but not like HBO rated R. So it's like they will deal with adult issues and adult situations more than The Simpsons would, but just not HBO all the way. So, which is also where I'm like, it's so middle of the road. I don't understand who could still be watching it this long. It's like, do you remember the Spawn cartoon on HBO?
Yeah.
That was revolutionary because at the time for American cartoons, we never really had anything that was that explicit. Like they'd had explicit anime for decades at this point.
Yeah, but I don't think that there had been anything that violent before.
Not from American cartoons.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
There definitely was from Japanese, but not from American, which is where I mean, like, that's why it was so revolutionary from American cartoon production is like to finally, and I think like maybe Heavy Metal before that might have been the only other.
Heavy Metal was really violent, but it was
also had nudity and foul language and like sexual situations, and it didn't shy away from any of it, which is why, like, aside from those two things in American cartoons, you don't have a lot of actual violence that's on screen and like showing blood, like Fist of the North Star. Like when Fist of the North Star, when the first time you see that as an American, you're like, holy shit, this is legal? They're allowed to like show somebody's head exploding in a cartoon. And then you realize like, oh my God, there's like a whole genre that was not meant for children. Whereas here they make it seem like anything that's drawn is like associated with children. And it reduces it, whether it's fucking comic strips, comic books, or cartoons. Anything that is drawn is automatically for children, even if it's explicitly for adults.
I want to establish a rule for animated storytelling. If it involves planet-wide destruction, it's not a kid's story. It's just not.
You would think, like,
it's not. It's not a kid's story.
Transformers movie, that shit should not have been for children.
No, that's a planetary invasion story.
Yeah,
that's not a kid's story.
Should have been at least PG-13, at least, if not rated R. But that's why, again, just because it was a Transformers movie, people were like, oh, it must be for kids, like, and didn't screen it first or didn't realize, like, no, they're gonna kill off your hero. That's never been done before, guys. So if your kid is a little sensitive, you might not want to show this to them. And then people running out of the theater crying because fucking Optimus Prime died and they didn't bring him back yet. So yeah, just because there's not tits or sex or some shit like that doesn't mean it's okay for kids. And further, like you're saying, there's subject matter that just because there's not like bloody violence even on the screen, it's not necessarily good for kids.
Watching giant sentient machines eviscerate each other and then watching their, I'm presuming, like energon-based hydraulic fluid pouring out of their hydraulic pipe works, I guess, whatever, hydraulic fluid delivery systems. Watching that happen is as violent an experience as watching any gore film. And it's in fact it's more detailed because they're going, the visual effects departments are going out of their way to make highly detailed Transformer evisceration, explosion, detonation, whatever scenes. You can watch individual components go flying off in 4K extended dynamic range. in surround sound too, so you can hear where every piece lands behind you.
Yeah, so I'm,
It's just not violent because it's robot or machines getting destroyed. Apparently, even though metal being destroyed is one of the most violent things that humans can participate in. Like those giant paper shredders that chew up engine blocks. That's an exceptionally violent mechanical action. Or like a junkyard, the things that compact cars down, entire SUVs like a Suburban down into a box of metal the size of like a 5-liter freezer, chest freezer, 7-liter chest freezer, the size of a dishwasher basically. That's what was once a car. That's super violent.
Yeah, I'm always amazed at the amount of metal that's been extracted from the mantle, or what, I guess like whichever layer, but there's just so much metal. And there's a shitload more in the earth still, or in the ocean.
Everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. It's fucking insane how much like green and metal resource exist in a way that it's like we don't have to just constantly extract it and set it aside to ensure we'll get profit. Like,
man, so they have their own iron extraction processes, and one of the byproducts of one of these processes is neodymium. Because there's so much neodymium in these iron-rich regions of China that they're like, hey guys, we're also producing this really heavily demanded rare earth metal while we make iron. What are we going to do with it? And they can produce it so cheaply that nobody else can compete with them. Like China owns the neodymium market. Like completely, they can undercut everyone to the point that production is too expensive to compete on price because it's a state-run entity. Chinese neodymium. Neodymium is like critically necessary for all of the electric motors that are supposed to exist by the end of internal combustion.
I mean, and basically any type of electronics you can think of.
Yeah. Rare earth metals are like this is one of those like, hey, while it's great that everyone's concerned about batteries because I'm concerned about batteries, but we also need to be concerned about the magnets. Unless there's a new materials revolution on the horizon for electric motor structures that hasn't been thought of yet. I think the real problem still is the batteries, because they just represent such a huge percentage of the cost of electric vehicles.
Well, and they have to output so much juice at the time of usage, but also be able to store it without discharging. That it's a very demanding and unique piece of engineering, but also it's feasible. It's just more so making sure that it's in a setup that it doesn't oxidize within the batteries and casing, and it doesn't have any water like leakage problems, so that water doesn't hit the lithium. So it's like it's a lot it's a high bar of
There are a lot of things that can go wrong.
demand. Yeah, exactly. A shitload could go wrong where you're suddenly sitting in a fireball because as soon as anything goes wrong, it goes like as wrong as it possibly could,
Yeah.
and you don't really have much of a chance.
It gets hot enough to ignite the aluminum chassis, and then you're sitting inside a ball of burning aluminum. Great.
But that's also like because the batteries are so heavy, they have to be spread out over basically the entire base of the vehicle most of the time.
I think GM and
axles.
GM and Volkswagen are calling it a skateboard platform.
Yeah, that's what they call them. But if they can figure out a way to,
if they can get it the size of a current car battery, a 12-volt car battery size, lunchbox sized battery, if they can get that down to like even if it's in like the even at $5,000, that would be reasonable. Especially if there's some kind of exchange program. So when it started to get low, you could take it in, they recycle the cells and give you a new one. That's like a subscription though. Yeah, $5,000 battery subscription. Just keep bringing them back when they get to 70%, so they're still serviceable and can be reconditioned or whatever. There's a way to do all of this stuff. Burn off the dendrites. There's a way to do it. There also needs to be a concentrated effort to establish and train the infrastructure to support and maintain all of these electric vehicles, because as much as they can make them similar to the current iteration of cars, they are fundamentally different in terms of powertrain and drivetrain, like the delivery itself. Suspension and brakes, sure, they've got that down, but battery technicians, motor technicians, because electric motors aren't the same as gas engines. A lot of the subsystems are the same, like the air conditioning, like the climate control. That's the same, except now they have to have an electric heater because they're not deriving heat from the engine. Power steering can be run by an electric pump more efficiently than with the motor or by an engine. All of these things can be done better with electricity, but it's just a matter of. I really think that there's a big challenge in ensuring that the maintenance and support infrastructure exists. Because if there's opposition within the service industry, the vehicle service industry, or if they don't even have access to the tools or literature to learn how to maintain these vehicles for people, and customers are forced back to the dealership for all related maintenance. That's just. I don't think an industry can cut out its ancillary service industries like that overnight. I don't think that works. I think there'd be too much backlash. And there are a lot of parts too, like used parts, new old stock parts.
Yeah, I just know building a working miniature one that like an actual one must have so many moving parts that it's like at any given point something could fail because of repetition. Obviously they do these failure tests where like your door might be open and shut 10,000 times before it leaves the factory line, and it's like the stress testing that these things are put through in manufacturing like manufacturing standards is like one thing, but even just the normal wear and tear of use that goes on all these parts is where I'm like, it just makes me hyper aware of
Man,
everything that could go wrong.
you just reminded me of like doing QA for software and how it's like the goal is to try and break the software and try to figure out like all the ways that a potential user might screw up and make something go wrong. And I just remember thinking it's like it's difficult for engineers and scientists who develop the technology to try and think like a normal person and come up with ways that normal people are going to break their stuff. Because the scientists and engineers, they know the product inside and out, and so they know how to use it properly. But put that in the hands of some idiot who thinks a 1/3 pound burger is smaller than a 1/4 pound burger.
Oh my god!
And
oh god!
I mean, like
fucking Americans, man.
Yeah, I mean, you give somebody like that what amounts to one of the most sophisticated pieces of vehicular transportation ever. They're gonna find a way to fuck it up. I'm just convinced of that. Technology doesn't make people smarter; it makes smarter idiots.
That's true. Yeah.
Or more technologically sophisticated idiots, rather. Which probably just exacerbates the potential for everything going wrong.
And more self-assured idiots. I Googled it, man. I Googled it. Look.
Big shout out, though, to A&W for trying to beat the 1/4 pounder with their 1/3 pound burger. Sorry it didn't work. Your vanilla root beer floats are amazing.
Lately I've been just so baffled by the amount of food that Americans eat, and I'm like, none of it's quality. And I'm just like, how much bad food gets consumed every fucking day in America that's just bland, fucking overstuffed with like hormones and sodium and cheese, just because these people have no fucking taste buds left, and they think because they can get a triple cheeseburger that's good, even though they would have been better off eating like actual substance and something that was nutrient rich and seasoned well, so they didn't have to eat fucking 3 goddamn patties and a plate full of stale, over salted fries smothered in ketchup. Because they just have no taste, man.
It's the consumer culture. It wants products, and none of the food products are actually real food. They're all products. Real food is not something that's quantified in percentages of sodium and protein, or it doesn't come with a chemical breakdown. Real food is made by people and with their hands in a kitchen on site, in front of you maybe.
It's real bad, man.
You can't put that. I mean, you can put it into a take-to-go package and take it home, a doggy bag. You can do that. You can get to go from like a real restaurant and get real food that way. But that's expensive. It's easier for people just to sit in line in their car at drive-through express and get their mega burger and ultra fries and liter of cola, because that's what they want. That's what they really want. They want their Jetsons pill.
Well, and then you find out the same way that like tuna and what's the other one? Salmon are, because they're heavily farmed, they have to get dyed, and like all of the nutrients and shit have to be like
Oh yeah, they're fortified with vitamins and minerals.
Well, same shit happens to chicken.
Yeah.
It's like, man, how much of our food is basically just the fucking gruel from the Matrix, but in the form of chickens that have to go through the process of being stuck in a fucking cage? Because, like, at the end of the day, it's insane how unsustainable this all is. But if people just ate less frequently, they'd be able to eat better quality and would need less. It's like the weirdest shit.
So I wonder how much of the growth hormone that's given to dairy cows ends up in the milk that humans drink, and then how much of that growth hormone affects the humans that drink the milk.
Probably a lot, man. Because actually, it's funny you bring that up. I've been
Because
well,
that's like terrifying to me. That like
myself and Yasi have been doing oat milk instead of cow milk now for a couple of weeks, and it's
Sheila
like
started doing oat milk.
my stomach feels so much less inflamed. And I would not have thought that it made that much of a difference because it was just just a little bit of milk and coffee. I don't even use sugar in my coffee.
Yeah.
And it was just enough milk to change the color. So switching from cows to oat milk has like reduced the inflammation in my gut so much where I'm like, yeah, there must be something in it besides just the fucking lactase. Like I'm
Like I don't really drink.
You know-
I don't really drink milk. I'll put some milk or cream or half and half in some coffee because there's
right. I'm the same way. I don't drink
it's
milk.
all
I
right.
don't just
I don't really
unless
even
I
like
was having
ice
a plate of
cream.
pancakes. The only time I would drink milk by itself is if there's a stack of pancakes and I'm out for basically the stomach ache. I know that the stomach ache is coming if I'm eating like
Yeah.
a big ass stack of pancakes, some fucking eggs, some sausage, and some milk. I know it's not gonna feel good at the end. So that's not
You're gonna
I'm not
get a
gonna
big
blame that
blanket
on
and
the
roll
milk.
around on the floor.
Right. But I don't do that maybe twice a year. Maybe, maybe 3 times a year that it's like really that extreme. But I'm not just drinking milk. I don't,
The only times that
So-
I would seek out a glass of milk is if I'm eating old time like Entenmann's heavy donuts, or if I'm eating some really like bad Mama Jamma chocolate chip cookies, like fresh out of the oven chocolate chip cookies. And similarly, I know I'm going to end up with a stomach ache in both
with
situations.
in those situations, I would agree. It's like, but I'm not really drinking the milk. I'm using it to dip
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
thing into.
It's just
Or
to
like,
help break it down a little bit early, even though it makes it expand later.
Because even then, I'll usually use a ramekin because it's better for dipping anyway.
Yeah.
So like, if I'm drinking or if I have a donut or something, it's going the milk's going in a ramekin, so it reduces the amount that I'm drinking, and also better for dipping. But yeah, I'd still probably get milk if I was gonna have a donut, or a cow's milk if I was gonna have a donut, because I don't know if almond milk would go well. But even then, almond milk or oat milk might be really good in a cake.
I want to try oat
know?
milk with Cheerios.
And that's where I'm like, it might be really good.
Because
it might.
I've been camping and nobody brought powdered milk, so there was no milk for the cereal that we brought. And I've done cereal with cranberry juice, with orange juice, with pineapple cran juice, with like all sorts of juice combinations at this point. And it's actually pretty interesting. Some work, some don't. Like the ultra sweet cereals obviously will they have a conflict with most juices. But something like Honey Bunches of Oats or Cheerios or Corn Flakes, the less sugar intense range of cereals all respond really well with fruit juice. So I think oat milk would probably be really good because a lot of the cereals that fall into that less sugar intense range, they almost all contain oats. So it's just kind of bringing it full circle.
But it might feel redundant too, like which is where
Yeah.
anymore with redundant items or like ingredients, I can't necessarily do it. It feels like a weird, like, why am I doing this type of scenario where I used to love like any sort of pasta and garlic bread, but as my taste got better and better, it just was like too many overlapping ingredients.
See, I don't like doing breadsticks and pizza. It's like, wait, why am I eating extra crust?
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's like, it was always weird to me that was the only option, and I would do it, but I would prefer like pizza and fries rather than pizza and breadsticks.
I like pizza and wings. Pizza and some bone in, like, real chicken wings. Yeah, that's the stuff.
That's definitely having a stomachache afterwards.
Oh yeah, that's
you know it's coming.
Yeah. Especially if it's like a real pizza that uses real cheese.
Oh, that's like
all that oil.
That's some shit. That's the reason it only happens a couple times a year is because that's a real stomachache you're asking for right there. Yeah. Especially the spicier the wings and the more cheese
and some tomato sauce.
Yeah, that's definitely like it's love and regret all in one meal.
Shit, you don't need to go out for a night of heavy drinking to go through all of the anguish of a night of joy and regret. You can just do it with pizza and wings and not alter one's brain chemistry or destroy, liver function or kidney function for a night. It's possible to do those things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, years ago, Winston and I, after the house party would break down, we would just make a beeline to Kroger and get a rotisserie chicken and then eat it, select a new hot sauce and just eat the whole thing. And I don't think I could do that now.
I think I've done that within the last 6 months. But I don't drink, so
yeah. No, I think I could do it if I was sober. I think I could definitely do it if I was sober. But I don't think I could go out for a night of partying and then finish it off with a chicken.
Nah, I mean, and that's where it just feels like a waste. Where if you're gonna just like throw it up, like why do it anyway? I mean, that's some like Roman gluttony type shit, I guess. But.
Yeah, you puke it up into an urn next to you, and then you just drink some more wine to cleanse your palate. Then just start ramming more chicken down your throat, right?
Yeah,
that's how the Romans did it. More wine. I'm glad we can look back and make fun of those fat fucks.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's even like, I can still just eat a whole pizza, no problem. But I know that if I like just restrict myself to half a pizza and then like once I eat half a pizza, if I'm still hungry, I'm like, yeah, go fucking eat the other half. Fine, go for it. But just eating a full pizza out the gate and then be like, do I need more? There's just this real assertion of presence through eating that Americans can do because food is so cheap and in such abundance, but that food is usually not filling because it's not nutritious and it's also not necessarily good. So it may just be the blandest version of that thing you could possibly get, but because one is not doing it for the sake of enjoyment, and it's like the act of doing that, it's like it's
fuel.
It's another. What's up?
It's fuel consumption.
It is, but it's more escapism than fuel consumption because it's inefficient use of fuel. And this is where I mean, like, when
Oh,
I
it's like fuel
learned
for the sake of fuel consumption.
exactly, and it's like, and that's where I learned, like, you don't have. I can burn 2,600 calories, and I usually burn probably about 2,400 every day. If I do a workout, I may get up to like 3,000 calories. I don't need to eat 3,000 calories. I may only need to eat like 1,800 calories. And I'm not going to lose a ton of weight. I may not lose any weight because our body is actually really efficient with, if we take in anything, it's going to like release its own insulin, like release your stored fat. There's all this stuff that our body has become efficient at doing where thousands and thousands of years of not having regular meals usurps the like 100 years of being able to have a regular like expectation of eating every fucking day. So like we don't when we everybody was also not hunting and gathering in the sense of everyone's genetic expression is obviously not the same. So my activity, my ability to like operate and do activity without consuming as many calories, maybe other people aren't as good and aren't as efficient with their use of calories. But I bet they are, and they just haven't actually tried. And this is one of those things where people can get in a stasis point where they're like not gaining a ton of weight, but their routine still is not on par with as many calories as they're taking in every day. And whether it's in the form of like snacking or eating like 4 meals a day, there's a lot of people who just don't need to eat as many calories as they're taking in. And that's where
I think the principles of like Taoism and Kung Fu intersect at this point. What you're talking about is that there's a balance that one should seek, both for like energy intake and expending it, and then there's also an amount of effort one needs to actually apply to get everything done, so that they're not overexerting themselves or not underperforming. And it's a balance. There's some kind of like a continuum involved where one has to be active so that they can go get the food, but one doesn't need to overexert themselves to get it. There's an efficiency, like an efficiency curve to all of this. And if there's too much food, then people get fat because they don't have to expend any energy and they can get a lot of food.
Have you ever fallen asleep really hungry and then woken up not hungry at all?
Well, yeah.
So
I'm assuming that's my brain doing something to me, though.
It is, but it's not on accident. It's because like certain times of the day, your body will release insulin, and like you don't need to eat once you hit those points. So if you can like make it to like roughly 8:30 in the morning, then you don't need another meal, which is where it's not even like you'll be starving. You'll have enough sugar in your blood because you're going to release, like, our circadian rhythm gives us like a release of our own stored up nutrients on a daily routine. And if you just make it to those points, then you're fine until the next one, like, as far as hunger goes. And it's like, I think people don't realize every time that they are getting a hunger signal that they're not actually empty. Like their intestines may still be full of food. Their actual stomach still may be processing food, because that shit takes a while too. Especially when it starts getting backed up. And a lot of the acid reflux is people never giving their intestines time to process the food that's in it, and then they'll eat something and it won't ever make it out of the stomach. So then it starts backing up into the esophagus, because it's like they're not giving themselves enough time to fucking process the nutrients that they're actually consuming at a rate with what they're burning, and they're not burning 2,500 calories a day. Sometimes they're burning like 1,800 calories a day, but
Or
they're eating
1,200.
or 1,200, but they're eating like 2,000 calories because that's what we've been told people need, which is
I think you just made
fucking wild.
You just made a really strong argument for some people going out and getting a colonic.
You don't have to get a colonic. You just have to fucking not eat, and your body. You know what I mean? Like, just give it a minute and process the food that's in there, and your body will fucking use up all the nutrients that are there and fucking just move it through. Whereas if it never actually gets in a deficit where it needs to process what's there, then it keeps like letting it build up because it's never getting into a point where it needs to process everything.
So
it
you
keeps
just
taking in more.
You just reminded me this time that I was camping with friends, and we had breakfast sausage patties and bacon and eggs and hash browns and pancakes every morning. And I remember by day 3 of eating lumberjack breakfast type stuff, I was extra round. I was my whole body was kind of inflamed from all the salts and all the fats.
Bloat.
I was bloated, and it took about a week for me just to not. I think I'm pretty sure I crapped it all out by the time I got back to the house, the closest home. But then it took about a week for everything to just smooth out, and for my body to go back to normal. And we were being active. We weren't just sitting around a campsite. We were walking around and hiking and going fishing and things like that. But it took a while. It wasn't like go to drop the number 2 off and it's done. That was almost half a week of consuming high fat content, high salt content, extra meaty breakfasts. So I can only imagine if someone's diet is primarily processed or industrial food product, then, and it's all the time, that's got to be weeks for that kind of, many weeks. If hours are days and weeks are months, I'm saying it's going to be maybe even years with that timetable.
Yeah, man. And that's where I'm like, I just know after years of monitoring my heart rate and my calorie expenditure, I know what it takes to get to 3,000 calories burned in a day. And I know what it takes for my resting metabolism to be roughly 2,400 where it's at. So it's just, I know most Americans aren't there. They don't have that much activity, and they're sitting most of the time. And they're not working out as much as me. They're not doing strength training as much as me. And it's like, for them to be eating I usually maybe hit 1,800 calories a day if I don't monitor them, but it's actually really difficult to make 2,000 calories if you're not eating crap food. Whereas if you're eating shit food, it's really easy to hit 2,000 calories with a couple snacks, and that's where I know if I'm gonna have a donut or maybe 3 donuts or whatever, that day I'm definitely not monitoring my calories, but I might hit 4,000 calories that day. So I better at least do a day that gets me to 3,000 calories, or something, or I'm just completely throwing it out and I don't care about gaining 5 pounds that day, because that's probably what's going to end up happening. Where it's too many of those days in a row is how somebody with my frame could end up being like 300 pounds, where I have no business with my frame being 300 pounds, even with muscle. And that's a whole different story. But I could easily hit 300 pounds if I just like didn't pay attention to what I ate every day. It could happen. It could very easily happen. And that's where, to me, the only reason, like, about to turn 40, it's not an accident that I'm not 300 pounds. Like, it shit didn't happen on accident. And I don't like beat people up when they're like, man, you're lucky. You got, like, no, it's not fucking luck. I work really goddamn hard not to end up 300 pounds, but I don't have to work as hard as other people to get to like certain points, whereas certain things come more natural to my genetic expression than other people's genetic expression. So I'm not under any illusion that it's all from hard work either. So on that note, I really like abhor the notion of like the 2,000 calorie a day diet being something that's just generally accepted as like a standard for people. Because that would be, it's even for somebody who works as hard as I do, like that's still a lot of fucking calories if you're eating good food. Like a steak is not a whole lot of calories, or a burger with like quality ingredients. It's not a whole lot of calories. The bun actually ends up being almost as many calories as the fucking meat. And then once you start putting the cheese and the goddamn ketchup and shit, ketchup is sugar, not so much calories, but it would, you know, I generally don't eat ketchup. It's not that I don't like ketchup. It's too much sugar.
I don't like ketchup in a bottle. That stuff turns to plastic when it dries up. Anything that turns into plastic after the water evaporates or the vinegar evaporates.
Like we get the low sugar ketchup or no sugar, and even then I'm just like I'm so used to not using it that I may not even actually put it on anything. But
I like mixing a little bit of ketchup with mayonnaise and some sriracha and some lime juice, and I'll like, you know, dip my fries in that.
Yeah, if I ever use it, I'll probably mix it with mayo. Yeah. But even then, it's like anymore, because of the spice, like the spices being used. I don't dip a lot of things. It's like if I eat potatoes, I'm just eating the potatoes.
Yeah,
and I'm not dipping them in anything because they're spiced so well that it's like, I don't really need to put anything on this.
if A1 were to release a sauce that was the flavor of sour cream, butter, salt, pepper, and a little bit of A1, they could call it French fry or a potato sauce, they would make a killing. Of course, how do you get the sour cream and the butter to be shelf stable? So it's definitely not made out of butter and sour cream. This is totally a product at this point. I don't want to think about this anymore. That just makes it nasty. I think that's my dilemma, is that the things that I like on potato, you know, it's like salt and pepper and butter. I don't even really care for sour cream on a potato. I think potatoes are pretty amazing on their own. It's like when you start adding complex herbs and seasoning, and then you start to really, they start to come alive. And it's no longer just a baked potato or a roast potato. It becomes a complex, a part of a complex, or a component in a complex dish. Potatoes are over. I think in some ways they're like overutilized and underappreciated for their capabilities.
Definitely.
They're underutilized and overappreciated at low levels.
But it's also because people are just covered. They're just dousing them in ketchup.
Yep.
Like potatoes are basically a vehicle for ketchup. in most cases
Well, that's
in
why. That's how
America.
salads are a vehicle for, a delivery system for oil and vinegar and some spices, or sometimes cream if you like ranch.
I don't know, man. It's just anymore because like the quality of ingredients is so important that I can't fathom the mindset of those things not being important. And to see so many people walking around in that mindset, it's like, what is happening? Where did was there ever any understanding of quality? Did these people ever have quality as like an idea that they understood? I'm not really sure they did. Um, and it's like it seems like to me, quantity has been paramount in this specific culture. I'm sure, like there's some brands or some vehicles that like a Packard, uh, like those are quality vehicles, but maybe it's just the broken clock. Maybe ever so often someone who's really out to make money makes something that's really high quality. I don't know, but as far as I can tell, like it just seems like quantity has been much more paramount to quality in this
Yeah.
particular culture.
Well, quantity and low cost. It's like cheap. Wait, was it? It's cheap, good, and fast. Pick two, and so I think cheap and fast usually wins,
Yep.
which is sad because there are examples of inexpensive and good coming together, but I think that's a much more personal exchange. That means that somebody went and found a tool builder, or they found somebody to do a job at a very low rate. Like they negotiated a really good price for something, a service generally, but that doesn't work in a commodified market where everything is a product and products are expected at exactly what they're described for exactly what they cost right then and there. And I think that's actually the reason that so many businesses fail to transition to e-commerce is that they rely on a standing inventory, and that's being utilized both by a brick and mortar and also by the e-tail. And once those things start to interact with each other, one moves at the speed of customers, and the other one moves at the speed of a retail associate and the shipping department, and those things are not the same. And if one can influence the inventory availability of another in real time, then there's conflict. Like it only really works if the e-commerce and the brick and mortar sides have independent inventory system. But that's not the case. Like no retail, no brick and mortar is going to be like, oh yeah, we're going to establish an entire brand new online division overnight, because that means they're carrying like double inventory essentially, if not more than that. And so only like the really adaptable, super large businesses can really do it, like Target, Walmart, Amazon. Because when you look at like smaller retail, more specialized retail, their websites they're like a decade behind at this point compared to leaders in e-commerce.
That's true, but the only way that it's really sustainable for small businesses is to combine their digital inventory with their online sales. And that's like I've seen it, like Android's Dungeon at the mall does it that way.
Yeah.
And actually I had suggested the way he's doing it, so that like it is the most efficient as possible, but that's really like the only sustainable way that a small business can have an online presence. Because then, like, you'll look at like the comic book store Vintage Phoenix, and they have an online presence, but their inventory is such that none of it's online. Like they just have too much inventory to be simultaneously
updating it all.
Updating it and posting it online. And that's where, because he's putting in orders every week and has to keep track of his own stock.
Yeah, it's impractical for something like a comic book. What is he going to do? To take a picture of the cover and put it on a website and have every issue have its own mini website?
Exactly.
That's
that's where
that's just not tenable.
It would be possible if it was like only high grade.
I mean that's
collector's items, but
only
he's
done
dealing
at the
with like
publisher level though. That's where
right,
that
and that's what I mean. It would like only be at that level that would work, but you can go at that level and buy it now. So that's kind of where
you can.
It is. Yeah, you know, it's accessible at the level where it should be, but there are things that he's leveraging online presence to like promote the pieces in the store. So like if he gets something in, he just promotes it online, whereas like he don't have to go through the whole inventory like pricing. It's just like post a picture on Instagram. That's all he needs to do, and people go in the store. And if they're not local, then they're not going to get the fucking deal. Boo hoo. That's just the way, because he's going to sell it regardless of if like somebody online thinks that they should have access or not. It's going to get sold. So that's where, to me, I appreciate the notion that these businesses that have local operations don't need to expand their operations online. Like, for example, like if there's an ice cream shop,
what the hell are they going to sell online?
Well, I mean, theoretically, they could like pack it with dry ice and like ship it. But why should they? They shouldn't fucking have to. If they have enough local business, they don't need to start selling things online. Whereas, like, I have a cousin who he sells pies on the weekend at the farmers market, and you can like buy them within the state, but they don't ship out of state. And it's like, because of the way they package them, they're just like, you go to their website and you can, like, if you're in Indiana, you can buy one, but they're not going to sell them to people in fucking California.
What about somebody like the next city over across the Illinois state line?
I mean, you can get it. You can order it for pickup too. So if that person wants to drive and like come pick it up, they could totally put that order in. You can place pickup orders or within the state, but you can't place orders out of the state. So that's why I'm like, they don't need to sell fucking out beyond the borders if they got enough local business. And that's
what's their website?
Love that, let me check real quick. Fucking.
This is the most impromptu plug ever, too, by the way. I mean, pie delivery. That's, if we're not living in the future and we've got pie delivery, I don't know how else to measure that. Like, order your fresh pie online, same day pickup. I mean, that's borderline Jetsons level awesomeness.
Hold on. Instagram is being weird, and it's like bringing up 1,000 different other people before my actual fucking cousin. Hold on.
I don't even mess with Instagram. Like I click on
I don't
links
really either.
and it takes me to places and I look at stuff and it's like, what, wait, this isn't what I clicked on.
Called Generations Pie Company. Let's see. Generations Pie Company. I'm not sure if that's like, if it's just generationspiecompany.com. It's generationspie.co. That's, yeah.
Is it in Fortville?
Yep. Yep. That's them. Because then it's like,
these are some freaking
okay, so check
bomb-looking
it.
pies.
Let me clarify. My cousin's married to the family of this person. So like her husband is like in that family, but I just refer to him as my cousin, like because he's like cousin-in-law, but same fucking shit. So.
Okay, this strawberry rhubarb pie. Maria's strawberry rhubarb pie, $20. That looks fantastic.
And they always look bomb, so that's where I'm like, every time I see it, he posts every
Bonnie's triple
Saturday
berry
morning,
pie looks fantastic.
and I'm just like, man, oh, these fucking pies look amazing. But I love that they're still able to, I mean, not just them, but businesses are still able to operate like that, where
order 20 to
they get
24
enough-
to 48 hours in advance. Generationspie@gmail.com. 317-605-9568. You can see them at the Irvington Farmers Market on the second Sunday of every month. White River State Park on the first and third Sunday. They show up all over the place. Fortville Farmers Market on Thursdays. Carmel Farmers Market on Saturdays.
They're all over, man.
Yeah.
Which is where I look, like I just see them posting pictures. I'm like, these pies look fucking amazing. But I'm just never close enough, and I'm like, I need to just order one.
Yeah, the peach pie looks good.
But I also am wary of having a pie sitting around because I'll definitely eat the whole thing.
I mean, how can you not eat the whole thing? Like, if there's a pie that goes uneaten, then I start to wonder if like there's something wrong with that person.
Right.
It's like, are you okay, bud? Did you eat too much too quickly? You just taking a break? Because...
Well, that's one of those things where it has to be for like a group or an event or something. Because if there's just a whole pie sitting around, that shit's gonna get eaten up, and stomach aches are definitely getting had.
That's funny. About it was a little bit over a decade ago. I went through a I think I went through about 6 or 7 pumpkin pies in the span of 2 weeks because Kroger. I lived like 2 miles from Kroger, and it was pumpkin pie season. The first one was so good, and they were all so good, but by the end of the season, they were less good.
That's not good.
And I think
you can start to tell the pumpkins aren't as good.
Yeah, the filling wasn't as good. The spices that they were using weren't as consistent as before. Like,
well, I thought they usually use canned, but maybe they were using fresh, and that may be the difference. Because, I know a lot of recipes call for canned.
Yeah, well, maybe it was just like a subpar batch of filling then, because I just remember it wasn't like I was tired of pumpkin pie. I just didn't want to keep eating those pies. Maybe I got tired of those pies.
Well, if you haven't tried hive pie yet, definitely give hive pie a try. It's one of my favorites. This is not an advertisement, but I genuinely will walk down there just to get a fucking piece of pie every so often. Because it's really good. It's like sugar cream.
Yeah, we don't have a
Pretty
hive
much
pie
a chess
endorsement.
pie.
We don't have
No,
any. We don't have any
Which is why
endorsements.
this is organic, and I don't feel bad doing it because hive pie is just delicious. And I don't care if you buy anything else ever from that place because it's kind of overpriced, but the pie is fucking good. In fact, I don't think I think the owner of Hive has like the people employed who make the pies. So I think it's like the same establishment, whereas other places, it might be an external person though. I don't quote me on that, but regardless, their pie is consistently good. Their Hive pie. The chocolate pie is decent too, but the specific Hive pie, I'm pretty sure it's sugar cream in that it's close to a chess pie, but a little more egg, I think.
I'm big on like cherry and apple pies. I like key lime pies as well. I would like lemon meringue more if it didn't have the meringue.
I feel like key lime is a really hard one to pull off. It's better in theory than most applications.
Most of them have too much lime. They're too intense in the lime department, and I think people over or underestimate the intensity of key lime. Like a whole key lime is enough to completely alter the flavor of a gallon of water. You know, it's like a little tiny thing. The fruit body of the lime itself is smaller than an eyeball. It's like, grape-sized body of fruit, and that's enough to alter the flavor of an entire gallon of water. Completely lime-flavored water at that point. And that's strong stuff. It takes like half of a key lime can overpower pure cherry syrup, like real cherry syrup, not machino sweet, but like tart cherry syrup. It can overpower that. So, yeah, key lime is great when it's done well, but you're right. It all too often it's just misses the mark. But with like an apple pie or a cherry pie, so much of that pie's success is dependent on the crust. Because I don't know. A lot of the apple pies, like my mom makes, she'll cut up a bunch of green apples of Granny Smith's. But almost every cherry pie I've had, I think, in the last ever, have been cherry pie filling. So I think it all comes down to the crust.
Well, it's weird because to me, cherries are so good, but imitation cherry is so terrible.
Yeah.
And a lot of my understanding of the cherry flavor early on was based on imitation cherry. So I was like convinced that cherries were disgusting. And then once I tasted actual cherries, I'm like, oh my God, these are fucking amazing.
It's like you've been lied to your whole life, realizing what real cherries taste like. It was a lie.
Yeah.
He's like, these bastards have been hoarding the real cherries for themselves. Get them.
Pretty much. That's what it felt like. Same shit with bananas, man.
Yeah.
Like banana runts smell nothing. Like it's so fake.
I can't stand banana runs. They're so weird.
It's the weirdest smell, but it's got a hint of real banana where you're like, okay, I get it.
It reminds me of the stuff they put in your mouth before they stab you at the dentist and give you the Novocaine. That's what runts remind me of. The topical Novocaine they stick in your gum before they jab the needle in you.
Oh God,
I can't do those yellow runts. They're horrible.
I can taste that disgusting wannabe fucking raspberry goddamn actual something with cane in it whether it's Coke or Novocaine, I don't know, but there was definitely some cane.
It's
Because then your
lidocaine.
shit, yeah, whatever. But it definitely tastes. You can taste the cane, and trying to overpower the cane with the goddamn raspberry and failing miserably.
Ugh.
I can taste it. Ugh.
Yeah. When I was like getting all my, when I was younger, I had had all the dental work done and getting stabbed in that fucking gigantic needle. Good Lord, that thing was monstrous. But like, I didn't care about that part so much as the topical numbing agent. That part was horrible. It was just that was the worst part. Because then like half of my tongue doesn't work. And then the needle goes in, and then half my face stops working. That was the only part about going to the dentist I hated. Everything else was fine. Drilling, fine. Getting a crown, fine. Whatever. Having like extensive contouring done to my teeth so that they all lock into place, fine. Whatever. That's just do it. But it's that numbing agent. And that's not even used every time someone goes to the dentist. Like, you know, sometimes you go in for a cleaning or just a checkup. They don't have to use it, but that's the part that always made me not want to go to the dentist. And why I take care of my teeth.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because not wanting to go to the dentist did make me obsessively clean my teeth to the point where it wasn't that my teeth ever got messed up. It was like I'd brush so hard that it would like push my gums back.
Oh, and you were exposing the dentin.
Yeah, so I had to stop brushing as hard.
Yeah. My dentist noticed that I was doing that, and they're like, "You should use a soft brush." And I said, "What do you mean a soft brush?" And he said, "Well, it looks like you're using a medium to a hard bristle." And I said, "Oh, okay."
I use ultra soft.
Yeah. Then they gave me a child brush, and they're like, "Use this for a while; it'll help your gums." And it was like the softest brush that exists.
Yeah, nah, man, I get it because if my bristles are too hard, it will just tear up my gums, and then it's because I need the feeling of the foam, and the harder the bristles, the more likely it is to scratch the gums.
So you know, this is kind of interesting. Crest toothpaste was engineered at IU, and the foaming agent in Crest toothpaste, the same foaming agent in pretty much all toothpaste now, is does not require additional water. It's supposed to activate with saliva, but it's slow reacting. And the point of it is that by brushing, we get the toothpaste in between the teeth, and then the saliva activates it, and then it foams, and then it does the cleaning thing, like, you know, scrubbing bubble action. But the culture with American teeth brushing, and even reinforced by every dentist that I've ever met, they all mention, you know, get it a little wet first to activate it, which is not the instructions provided by the scientists who developed it. And so there are some toothpaste that have advanced foaming agents that are designed to like have extra foaming, and those it's like even more critical that one does not pre-wet them, because they have to be able to get far enough in between your teeth so that they can work properly.
Well, I wet my bristles before I put
I do that too.
The paste on.
I do that so that the bristles aren't just like a solid column. And but yeah, like when I learned that Crest was developed at IU, it was like, oh, holy crap, that's great. I love Crest toothpaste. They have the best flavor profiles.
Yeah, but even then, I had to stop using most of the bubbling agents because that shit like gives me ulcers. So
oh man,
now I use Sensodyne or like the fake Sensodyne or whichever one is available.
I really liked that brief period of time when everything was baking soda toothpaste. I really enjoyed that period because that was like the most refreshing, like effervescent too bad it's like it basically scours your enamel down and is
Yeah.
too aggressive. But man, it felt so good. Slowly destroying
It's
teeth.
really like the enamel is so important, and coffee sticks to it so much that like the lifestyle that people live, it's really easy to like let that shit build up and think your teeth are stained permanently, whereas it takes time to get rid of the layers that have built up. And people just want like a quick fix, so they like, well, go bleach it, or
Yeah, but then all that
fucking get
stuff.
veneers or some shit too.
But
Like,
bleaching all those layers of coffee varnish, bleaching the coffee varnish just delays the reoxidation of the varnish, and then it just turns back into coffee stains.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's no quick fixes.
Mm-mm. Nope. But there's the notion that there are, and people will seek them out and try to find them. So it's gotta live and learn, I guess.
So today I saw it was like an ad for armless sunglasses, little like what do you call it, silicone straps, and I looked at it and thought, well, aren't these just goggles? But apparently there's this new craze within sunglass community or culture where like people are trying to get rid of the arms of the glasses that hold them onto our faces and go with a strap. But they don't want to call it a goggle.
When you said it, I thought it was gonna be like the Morpheus just rest on your nose, but no.
The Morpheus resting on the
Yes.
nose would be cool. Because that's a
Yeah.
feat of engineering. Like, how do
Well, I
we?
thought it would be like, it must have like a suction or some sort of like tension that you spread it and then it like holds onto your face.
I'd be
Nose,
down to use some
strap.
I'd be down to glue 2 pieces of neodymium to the bridge of my nose to wear some glasses for a weekend. Have some magnetic sunglasses. That'd be cool. I wonder why nobody ever capitalized on like a magnetic piercings. Like you get a bridge piercing in your nose, and then your sunglasses just clip onto your.
I thought they have. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they
I'm
have.
sure that
'cause,
exists. That has to exist. I couldn't have just made that up. Like,
No, this dude has like detachable horns, I think, that are magnetic.
well, that's
That
kind
are
of
from
cool.
a piercing. Yeah.
That'd be a good way to attach like a Yautja face mask with magnets.
Yeah. That'd be dope as hell.
Yeah.
Or do like a combination Iron Man, Yautja.
Yeah. Ooh,
Build.
man. Yautja Man? Or the Iron
The Iron Yautja.
Iron Yautja? Iron Yautja would be terrifying. For one, a flying,
God, oh my
freaking
God.
flying Yautja with pulse blasters powered by an arc reactor.
That's overpowered. It's
That's
overpowered.
way overpowered. That's like
Way
that's
overpowered.
the scariest version of War Machine that's ever.
This is why I can't have flying like the flight capacity. That's way too overpowered.
Yeah.
Yep.
An invisible flying Yautja with an arc reactor and pulse blasters. Like, that's not even hunting.
No, and that's where at some point when you consume like science fiction or fantasy, it's like, yeah, you have to have a limitation on the powers or else it just becomes too godlike at a certain point where if that thing existed and could also turn invisible, but while silently, I mean, I don't know if it'd have to be silent, but that it might even be even more terrifying if it was invisible, but you could also hear it. And eventually, obviously, they'd have to use the hearing to take it down. But it's like something like that with little to no invulnerabilities is like you can't really tell a good story around it.
So there's a YouTube
Has to have
channel
some
called
vulnerability.
there's a YouTube channel called Tier Zoo, and they ask the question: Are insert overpowered? Like, are elephants overpowered or are hippos overpowered?
Hippos definitely.
Yeah,
Hippos
well,
definitely.
so like the human build is hilarious because humans have max intelligence, but we have like no strength and we have no speed, and we're basically like the frailest thing compared to everything else. But our intelligence, like, is beyond every other thing except dolphins and mice. And but they rate elephants and hippos, and they do it with video game style graphics where they show a baby elephant getting into a fight with a zebra, and the baby elephant easily waylaying an adult zebra. Like, it's not even a question. Like, this elephant's just way overpowered compared to the zebra. But is an elephant overpowered? Well, fuck yeah, it is. It can flip a freaking vehicle over multiple times without getting injured.
And they're really smart.
And they're
have good memories.
extremely smart. They remember every person that pisses them off.
That shit's crazy.
But yeah, that's a great website. They break down everything. There's one that's like, are birds overpowered? There's a cat tier list. Surprisingly, domestic cats are not the lowest on the list. There's one about honey badgers. Honey badgers are dramatically overpowered. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. They have to. There has to be an upper limit. Like, DC went through that when Superman became too powerful and the story became uninteresting.
Definitely. I think that's the best example. Even Iron Man got overpowered at some point. Like, he became a god, basically. They do it with everyone ever so. I mean, it's like it's almost like inevitable. And then their opponents become overpowered, and then it just basically gets reset.
Yeah,
Like, happened with Thor, happened with Iron Man, happened with fucking Venom, fucking pretty much anybody whoever became popular.
when
Batman,
Thor
Jesus
unlocked
Christ.
the Rune King powers and had to restart the universe. He had to go back to sleep so the universe could be reborn. Because he finally became his dad.
Yeah. Which I think when the story revolves around attaining power, that's really the only natural conclusion.
Yeah.
And it's been done so many times now that it's like, okay, guess we all know where this is going.
Yeah, but we all hope that we get a Thor that is relatively benevolent and isn't trying to destroy everything. But so often we get examples of, like, power corrupting and the person ultimately seeking to destroy the universe. Or their relative universe.
Yeah.
I mean, can Venom ever actually reach a truly mutually beneficial symbiotic relationship? I don't think he can. I think Venom is
probably not. Right?
Venom has to feed. Venom is a carnivore. Is a predator. Does not eat vegetables. Chocolate only satiates him for brief periods of time. I mean, could Wolverine ever even find peace when he tries to go out into the middle of nowhere and get away from everything? Trouble finds him. Batman can't sleep at night because he knows that there's some criminal out there wrecking his city because he's really possessive of Gotham.
Yeah, they did basically every fucking variation on Batman possible now.
And I think that's in a lot of those variations where our protagonist attains godlike powers, it's because they kill off their love interest. Like they kill Pepper, Tony loses it and turns everything into Iron Man world. They kill Lois, Superman goes crazy and turns everything into fascist Superman world. Batman's already a sociopath, so he doesn't, and they killed his parents right off the bat.
Yeah. It's there are so many stories that have been told. You could find pretty much every version of anything at this point to like contradict one another too. But that's also why continuity is like weirdly unattainable the bigger a universe gets. Because like contradictory ideas emerge within that universe, and then it's not even just about contrarianism. Like even within the DC universe, like as many times as they've had to reset it and go back, it's because something new came in and was like, this new idea is better than whatever we did, and it's just so different that we have to reset it. So boom, reset continuity. Or it's not going to reset continuity, but this is a new continuity that includes everything before, but we're changing it. Okay, reset. So I'm like, I don't know if any continuity can ever be perfect, but the way that DC just habitually just throws it out every 10 years and sometimes even more frequently, I think that's because over time, eventually you just end up in the same place over and over. So they're trying to like avoid that as much as possible. But like, I don't know if Marvel really cares about that particular thing, because then they've just kind of like leaned into it. Like with the House of X, effectively, which it seems like it's then working. So, or the House of Swords, like, or X of Swords. But it feels like Marvel is looking at their shit and they're like, what's the most Marvel thing we could possibly do? And that's what they're doing. And DC's just kind of like going in every fucking direction possible. And like, what sticks? What sticks? We'll go with what sticks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if. Sorry, go ahead.
I just read about X of Swords, and it seems like Wolverine, Apocalypse, and Four Horsemen. We're doing this again. Is it different this time?
Kind of. Kind of different.
I mean,
but because it's referential, that's why people are like, oh, this is fucking amazing. It's like the band's getting back together again, playing the hits.
okay, I guess I can. I'm down with that. I like nostalgia acts. Nostalgia acts can be fun.
But that's what it feels like Marvel's doing, and they don't care about like whether it's nostalgia or not. They're like, this is like what we're doing, and they're owning it. Whereas it feels like DC's having an identity crisis, not to reference one of their storylines, but
oh, speaking of MCU and referencing storylines, I heard that Megan Thee Stallion was on She-Hulk, and that they were twerking, and apparently some people have their panties in a bunch over this because apparently that's like inappropriate. And I want to set the record straight. The man himself, Stan Lee, if he were still alive today, he would have been right between them, twerking with them. shouting
mean
out Excelsior.
the creator of Stripperella?
Yeah. Like straight up,
the
he would have been right up
creator-
there with them. he would have been.
You think the guy who made a stripper a superhero would be okay with that? I think
he would.
I think he'd be fine.
He would have been
Yeah.
he would have been chanting Excelsior, smiling with those big ass aviator glasses. He probably would have had some kind of beverage vessel in his hand, but it would be empty by then. And he would not have a problem with this. And everyone who's worked up about it, I'm curious if they ever actually enjoyed Marvel Comics.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Because then those same people are it's just trying to be like Deadpool. Actually, it was breaking the fourth wall before Deadpool existed. So, yeah, people who want to plant flags in comic book nerddom as their identities, but then get mad about She-Hulk twerking. It's like, man, who are these people? Why would they be mad at twerking anyway? Because that's the shit where I'm like, that shit feels anti-black to me. Because if you're a guy that's like supposed to be a cishet male,
You don't like twerking.
and you're mad at twerking,
Whoa.
okay, no, that's anti-black. No, you're anti-black, man. That's all that is. You just don't like black people dances. That's all that shit is.
Oh man.
Because
How can people not
otherwise, like,
twerking's great.
I mean, there's literally some Republicans who are out there like only gay people like twerking, and I'm like, even if that was true, like, even if that were the case, like, why would you have a problem with it though? Like, why are people actively like upset that somebody was twerking? Because my reaction to it is like, okay, even if you don't appreciate twerking as like a form of dance, like, oh, this isn't from the this isn't ballet or whatever you think is like quality dance that deserves merit, it's still not something to get mad at. But the way people were like actually getting upset and like taking time out of their day to express anger that people were twerking is like, where are their priorities? If you actually are so mad that anybody's twerking, let alone like somebody who's a musician and a fictional character, a 6'7" green gamma radiated fictional person is twerking, that's like,
It tells us more about that person than it does about
that says
the
more
show.
about that person than the show. Like, if you actually are so upset that you took time out of your day to express that, I'm so angry that two people were well, 1.5 people were twerking because one of them isn't real. So 1.5 people were twerking. I'm so upset. I'm gonna write a fucking novel on Twitter about it. What?
And the problem is that twerking isn't actually the big part of the story.
No, it was an extra. It was like the post credit scene.
Yeah,
like that.
it wasn't even.
You would think the whole story was like, She-Hulk twerks in town, and that's like the main.
Like 30 minutes of She-Hulk twerking.
Yeah.
Nope, it
What
wasn't
happens
even.
when She-Hulk learns how to twerk?
Oh,
This week on She-Hulk. Like, no, that's not what the episode was. In the episode, the way that like the actual plot that in which they incorporated Meg Thee Stallion, it was actually funny. So that's where I'm like, when I first heard that they were gonna have Meg Thee Stallion on She-Hulk, I was like hesitant because I'm like, this could go really horribly for X amount of reasons. It's like
when I heard about it, I thought, wow, do they realize what they're getting into?
Well, because my thing is like, like say you're like, okay, Beyonce's coming on the X-Men, and you're like, oh God, I hope they don't fucking cast her as Storm. And you're like, until you know where Beyonce's role in X-Men fall. I mean, she's not actually an X-Men, but if like Beyonce was cast in X-Men, I would be like very concerned, like that they would try to put her in a role where it would be like distracting that she's not playing Beyonce. Like you can't take Beyonce and put her and be like, okay, this is Beyonce playing like not Beyonce.
Oh, we have that
fucking
Austin.
Distracting.
We have that Austin Powers example for why Beyonce can't be cast as anything other than Beyonce.
Perfect example.
That's why. That's exactly.
I forgot she was even in that. To be honest, I had forgotten she was.
That's
even
actually
in
what
that.
I thought at first. Was like, how are they going to cast Meg Thee Stallion as anything but?
But, bro, that's like a perfect example. Not to like. Anybody who hasn't seen this show is not going to get ruined.
Yeah.
But nobody in their right mind would believe that fucking Beyonce is going to like go after Austin Powers. Like even the character, it's like too unbelievable. You're like, nah, this is fucking Beyonce, dude. What are you talking about? Look at your teeth, bro. Look at your nah. Beyonce's not doing that. Like, so then it's so distracting that it's like, nah, man, I'm not buying this for a fucking second. That's where like. When Meg Thee Stallion is announced in She-Hulk, I'm like, oh God, I hope they don't have her playing like a bad, like a villain or something where it's like distracting.
Or just a shitty, poorly written character.
Right, yeah. But then the way they wrote it, it's like, okay, no, they didn't fuck that up at all.
No, not at all.
And I think they were aware how much they could have fucked it up. So then they didn't fuck it up. So then it actually works really well.
Yeah.
Which is where I was like, I wasn't like, oh God, Meg Thee Stallion is gonna be in She-Hulk. Like, no, please don't like try to make her act too much because she doesn't have that much experience. Like, because then people are gonna like reject her all out, like because it was forced. Whereas the role that she played is herself, so it worked really well. But then it wasn't her. It's like. It was enough.
It's the DC universe. It's the Marvel universe version of Meg Thee Stallion, and so they just happen to be very fortunate to be able to cast the real world version of Meg Thee Stallion to portray her Marvel universe version of herself, because it's not a big leap, but it gives her enough wiggle room to play and pretend and be a part of that universe in a way that is genuine, which is the problem with Beyonce in Austin Powers, or Beyonce in a theoretical X-Men story, or
perfect,
or Britney Spears in X-Men. Although,
if Britney Spears was in X-Men, like, but she was playing Britney Spears, and they went to a Britney Spears concert, it would be like, okay, X-Men are fucking cool. I might want to hang out with these people on the weekend. Like, in the same way, when what's the name? The DJ showed up in Iron Man. He was like the actual DJ at the party. So you're like, okay, Tony's partying. He's getting like actual fucking DJs to be the musicians at his shit. So this is like adding to the realism of his character. Whereas, Britney Spears is like trying to be Jubilee or some shit. It's like, dude, no. Don't do that. Don't do that.
although at this point, based on the introduction date of Jubilee, Britney Spears would be age appropriate for a current era Jubilee.
Oh my God. And I'm not saying I wouldn't watch it, but it would be distracting.
Oh man. What kind of PSA would Britney Spears as Jubilee deliver though? It wouldn't be about setting shit on fire.
I don't know, man. I'm
Exceptional Radio.
I'm looking forward to the X-Men.
Me too. Exceptional Randos show is produced live in Sunroom Studios' Base Capsule and in partnership with KLST 103.5, RadioCallisti.org. Remember to catch our Exceptional Randos live stream on YouTube every Sunday between 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a story, idea, or question that you would like to share, we want to hear from you. Thanks for listening.